The Other One. Written by Michael Rice. Read by the author. Brad put on some Springsteen, pulled the cool black-pressed vinyl from the black and white sleeve, placed it in his sharp VZ3000, then stepped back and grinned. He looked over the basement, his little kingdom. His stereo system, the leather sofas, the 10-ton floor-to-ceiling 45-inch big-screen TV, the pool table, the wet bar, all of them resting on the polished white marble tile. His toothy grin spoke volumes, an earth-shattering exclamation of self-satisfaction and confidence. This was his domain, and he reigned supreme. The new girl didn't knock. She didn't ring the doorbell, didn't call, "Yoo-hoo!" She just walked in, her denim skirt leaving nothing to the imagination as he watched her descend the stairs, her halter top evidencing its own ineffectiveness as her hard nipples pressed against the thin, stretched fabric. She'd missed Thunder Road, but Brad had her undressed and laid out on the pool table by the end of 10th Avenue freeze-out. Tonight, he made it through Born to Run before he pulled his disgusting grimace, spasming like a dog struck over the head and grunting like you'd expect to see foam dripping from his slacked jaw. He staggered back from the table, breathing heavily, looking over her body lying splayed out before him, his sweat rolling down her chest, He looked at her with the pride of an architect casting a critical eye over his latest building, as if he had done something to be truly proud of. He crossed the room to the wet bar, pulling out a lighter and a pack of Marlboros. He lit one, inhaled, then held out the pack in silent inquiry. She shrugged, and he tossed her the cigarettes, then the lighter. Sucking fire and exhaling storm clouds, he moved back across the room. The smooth piano and saxophone of Meeting Across the River crackled over the speakers, and he looked at her like she was on stage, beneath the sole light of a hazy New York City jazz club. His eyes flicked once in wordless proposition. "Wow," she said in a put-on, breathless sort of voice. "Maddie said you were insatiable, but I didn't realize she meant..." A door opened upstairs, and she stopped speaking as panic wiped away Brad's smug persona. "Fuck," he said, looking around for her clothes, his erect nakedness transforming from a badge of pride into an almost comedic panic. "You gotta hide." He pushed the two do-nothing articles of clothing into her chest, pulled her up and off the pool table, then pushed her towards the thin curtains that hid the board games and the pool cues. The same vaguely see-through curtains behind which I stood, watching the scene play out. She came within 5 feet of me. I could smell the sex and the sweat on her naked body. I could see the sudden look of worthlessness and self-loathing flash behind her eyes. It was the same look they all had after Brad had finished with them. They came one by one, knowing exactly what he was because he took no pains to hide it from them. They came to be pleased or validated, or because they thought maybe, just maybe, they might be the one who would make him walk away from it all. He never did. And inevitably, one by one, that look crept into each of their eyes. She took a step closer. Then I saw a spark of something flicker and catch. She whirled around and said, "You're a real sick fuck, you know that?" Brad answered, but I didn't hear him. I cocked my head to the side as I examined the smooth curve of her neck, down her bare shoulder. My hands shook with anticipation, longing to reach out, to wrap around her throat and squeeze. I let out a nearly silent, shuddering breath, masked by the never-ending sounds of Jungle Land still booming through the speakers. And I reminded myself she was not worthy of my touch. Reminded myself that my gift was worth bestowing on a good and a virtuous woman, not this tramp who slept with married men on the recommendation of others just like her. "What are you doing? Go! Hide!" Brad spoke in loud, exaggerated movements, but his words came out compressed, like he was trying to force the ocean through a straw. "No," she said, pulling on her halter top and stepping into her denim skirt. "No?" he asked, looking at her like somehow she was the one betraying him. He stood there, his briefs on backwards, his pants unbuckled, and the cigarette dangling from his mouth. She stood fast, the pool table between them, and then Lisa strode down the stairs. She stopped halfway down, nodding slowly as if none of this came as a shock to her. Unlike the denim-skirted floozy, Lisa wore a tight leather skirt. It was neither short nor revealing, but it fit her close and hugged her curves in a way that bespoke an underlying knowledge of self-worth. Her loose-fitting button-up shirt gave away none of her secrets, instead drawing the eye up towards a face that, while neither as young nor as thin as that of the girl who stood before her, was bursting with life. Silently, she looked from Brad to his latest conquest. She popped out her hip in a confrontational stance, but rather than yell, she simply lifted an eyebrow. "Lisa, Brad began. "I am so sorry," the girl cut in. "I had no idea he was—" "Oh, that's shit!" Brad yelled. "You knew damn well." "That's enough," Lisa said. She did not have to yell, did not have to throw her body around to make herself heard. She spoke like she wielded a divine force through her words, and when she spoke, they listened. "Another one?" she asked, and this time her voice wavered as she spoke. "There have been others?" the girl asked, clutching her chest. "You know damn well," Brad began, then wilted under Lisa's stare. "Get out," she said, looking at the girl, who nodded and rushed up the stairs. Lisa didn't move an inch, forcing the girl to climb around her as she went. When the door slammed shut behind her, Brad deflated and said, "Lisa, You know, Brad," she said, as if he hadn't said a word, "when you said you thought my taking this position was a good idea, that you fully supported me, I thought you meant you were finally ready to have a family, to really settle into ourselves. No more roaming, no more partying, more of us." "I did. I do. I just..." He gave it up as a bad job. "I knew it was going to be hard, being away from each other most nights. But I told myself it would be okay. We would both work, save up some money, and get a house we could raise our children in. What I didn't expect was for you to use it as an opportunity to screw every half-witted slut that came through your office. I didn't. Get out. She didn't scream. She just said it, calm as could be. He nodded, went to pull from his cigarette, and found that it had gone out. He buckled his pants and pulled on his shirt in silence, then grabbed the lighter and the pack of smokes from the pool table. Leave me one. He shrugged and tossed a lone cigarette onto the green felt. As he climbed the stairs, she walked down them. They passed each other back to back, and then Brad left. Lisa put the smoke in her mouth as soon as the door closed, and gave her body over to violent paroxysms of grief. Afterwards, she walked to the bar and dug out a box of matches. He'd taken the lighter. She lit the cigarette. She took one pull, then shook her head and left it burning on the bar. She racked the balls, then glanced around for a cue. She walked to the curtain. Time seemed to freeze as I stared into her eyes through the thin fabric between us. Despite the pain, the tears, and the loss, I still saw in her eyes that deep, burning life. The same divine power that coursed through my hands burned in her eyes. I had thought I was alone, that I was the only one the gods had chosen. I thought I might never find another one, another with whom I might share my divinity, someone to whom I could give my gift and receive theirs in return. She was not the first to have a loose latch on a basement window, not the first to feel the power of my calling as my hands wrapped tight around her neck. There had been others, plenty, but none who shone like me, like a beacon in the night. She pulled back the curtain. I didn't let her scream. We hope you have enjoyed this recording of The Other One by Michael Rice, a Four Horsemen and Company production. The Other One was produced and directed by Michael Rice. Text copyright Michael Rice, 2022. Recording copyright Four Horsemen and Company, 2023. All rights reserved.